The desert was quiet, too quiet. The wind blew across the endless dunes, lifting fine grains of sand into the air. A human man named Jack wiped sweat from his forehead and looked around. He was tired, sunburned, and running low on water, still. He kept walking, following the strange alien girl who said she knew where to go. Her name was Lyra, and she moved like the wind itself. Her skin was pale blue, and her silver eyes seemed to see things hidden in the sand. She didn't talk much, but when she did, her words were sharp and serious. "You will see it soon," she said softly. "The place my people are forbidden to touch." Jack followed her up a high dune, boots slipping in the hot sand. When they reached the top, she raised a hand, telling him to stop. They stood in silence, and Jack looked where she pointed. At first, he saw nothing but sand. Then a strong gust of wind swept through, clearing the surface for just a moment. His eyes widened as he saw a dark shape, a sharp black tip poking through the sand. "What is that?" Jack asked, his voice dry and cracked. Lyra didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked down the dune slowly, carefully, as if afraid the ground might wake up. Jack followed, curiosity burning in his chest like fire. As they got closer, more of the black shape appeared. It was smooth, cold, and hard like metal, but darker than anything Jack had seen, a perfect triangle, half buried in the sand, clearly not natural. Lyra touched it gently with her fingers, then quickly pulled back. "We are not allowed to go near it," she whispered. "It is a place of old power." Jack knelt down and brushed the sand with both hands. He uncovered a line straight and sharp, then another. Soon a doorway shape became visible. It didn't have a handle or a lock, just strange symbols carved into the frame. Jack stared at the symbols, tracing them with his fingers. "They're not like any alien writing I've seen," he muttered. One symbol glowed faintly under his touch. Lyra's eyes widened, and she grabbed his arm. "No, don't touch it," she cried. "It hasn't been opened for thousands of years." But it was too late. The symbol lit up brighter, and the ground beneath them began to shake. A deep rumble came from below the sand, growing louder each second. The doorway cracked open with a slow, grinding sound. A rush of cold air burst out, making Jack shiver despite the heat. From inside, a strange blue light spilled out. It wasn't like sunlight. It felt alive, like it was watching them. Lyra stepped back in fear, her voice trembling. "This is wrong. This should stay buried," she said. Jack stood frozen, staring at the glowing entrance. Something inside called to him, a whisper in a voice he didn't understand. He looked at Lyra, then back at the dark hallway inside. "If it's dangerous," he said slowly, "then we need to know why." He took one step forward, then another. Lyra reached out as if to stop him, but her hand fell back. She looked torn between fear and something else, hope, maybe. "No one has ever returned from inside," she whispered. "Not even the priests." Jack paused at the edge of the doorway. He turned back one last time, looking at her serious face under the desert sun. "I'll be careful," he promised, and then he stepped inside. The moment his boot touched the floor, the light inside grew stronger. Strange symbols on the walls lit up one by one as he walked deeper. Behind him, the door stayed open, but the desert seemed to vanish. Inside the pyramid, it was silent and cold, like another world. The floor was smooth black stone, polished like glass. The walls were high and covered with glowing lines and shapes. Jack ran his fingers across them, and they felt warm, almost alive. There were no lights, no wires, no tech, yet everything glowed. Lyra stood at the entrance, afraid to go further. But she couldn't leave him alone in there. She took a deep breath and followed, each step harder than the last. "I must be mad," she muttered. "This place kills, yet I follow a human into it." As they moved deeper into the pyramid, the light changed colors, blue, green, then red. They reached a chamber with a tall ceiling and a strange shape floating in the air. It was a cube made of energy, spinning slowly. Jack stared at it, Feeling a strange pull in his chest, Lyra gasped. "It's the heart of the pyramid," she said, "and it's awake now." Jack took a slow step forward, reaching toward the floating cube. His fingers stopped just inches away. "I think it's waiting for me," he whispered. Lyra's voice shook. "Then let's hope it doesn't regret waking up." Asterisk. The air inside the pyramid was strange. It smelled cold, like metal and old stone. Jack walked slowly, his boots tapping lightly on the smooth black floor. Behind him, Lyra followed, her steps silent, her eyes wide with fear. The walls glowed with soft colors, blue and green, and sometimes red. But there were no lights. Everything felt alive, like the pyramid itself was watching them. Jack kept glancing at the glowing lines that ran along the walls. They looked like veins, pulsing slowly, giving life to the stone around them. "This place is not just a building," he whispered. "It's something else," Lyra nodded. But said nothing. Her people had always told stories about this place. A cursed tomb, a forbidden zone, a place where the gods slept. Now she was walking inside it with a human, and the gods were stirring. They reached another room, darker and colder. It was quiet, too quiet. The light on the walls faded as they stepped forward. Only the strange cube floating above them gave off a glow. The cube spun slowly, and every few seconds it made a sound, like a deep hum from far away. Jack stared at it, still feeling that strange pull in his chest. Like the cube was calling to something inside him. Without thinking, he raised his hand. Again, his fingers came close to the cube, just a breath away. Lyra reached out to stop him, but before she could, Jack touched it. The moment his skin met the surface, the whole pyramid lit up. A strong light burst from the cube and spread across the room. The walls glowed bright yellow, then dimmed to blue. Jack's eyes rolled back as something strange took over. He felt like he wasn't in his body anymore. He was floating, lost in a sky of stars. He saw vision giant cities floating in space. Ships the size of moons, people like him, human but dressed in armor, shouting orders in a language he didn't know. A great war, planets burning, a final weapon hidden in a dark place. And a voice, old and full of power, whispered inside his head, "You are the echo of the past, the key, the last hope." Jack dropped to his knees, gasping. The cube dimmed, and the lights in the room returned to normal. Lyra rushed to him, grabbing his arm. "What did you see?" she asked, her voice shaking. Jack looked at her, sweat on his face, eyes wide. "I saw a war," he whispered. "A war from long ago. And I think they want me to finish it." Before Lyra could answer, a low sound began to rise. It wasn't from the cube. It was deeper beneath their feet. The floor trembled, and dust fell from the high ceiling. Then came the whispers. Jack turned his head fast, looking around. The room was empty, but the whispers were real. They didn't come from one place. They came from everywhere. The walls, the floor, the air. They weren't words he knew, but somehow he understood. They were warning him, or maybe welcoming him. Lyra held her head, her face pale. "I don't hear anything," she said, scared. "What do you mean, whispers?" Jack looked at her, confused. "You don't hear them?" She shook her head, and that's when he realized whatever this was, it was only for him. They moved on, deeper into the pyramid. The halls narrowed and twisted, and the lights began to flicker. Strange carvings covered the walls, creatures with wings, towers burning, stars breaking apart. One wall showed a man-human like Jack holding a sphere. Behind him, a dark figure stood tall with a blade made of fire. Jack touched the carving and again felt the strange hum. Lyra stepped back, her voice barely a whisper. "You should stop touching things." But it was too late again. The wall lit up, and the floor began to shift. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a passage behind the wall. Cold air spilled out again, this time smelling like smoke and metal. Jack and Lyra looked at each other. Neither wanted to go in, but they both knew they had to. Jack stepped through first, holding a small light. Lyra followed close behind. This new room was round, like a dome, with a tall ceiling covered in mirrors. In the center stood a stone table with glowing objects on it, rings, cubes, and something that looked like a crown. Jack reached toward the crown, but before he could touch it, something moved. From the shadow at the edge of the room, a figure stepped forward. It looked like stone, tall and thin, with glowing eyes and sharp hands. Lyra gasped, grabbing Jack's arm. "It's a guardian," she whispered. "They said they were all dead." The guardian stepped closer. One slow step at a time, its eyes locked on Jack, glowing brighter with each step. Then it raised its arm, and the room went red. Jack pushed Lyra behind him, heart racing. He didn't know what this thing was. But one thing was clear: it saw him, and it wasn't friendly. The guardian's footsteps made no sound, but each step shook something deep inside Jack. He didn't understand why, but his chest felt heavy, like the air had thickened just for him. The stone figure was tall and thin, with joints that moved too smoothly for something ancient. Its eyes glowed red, focused only on Jack. Lyra didn't breathe. She had heard stories of the guardians, silent watchers of the old world, protectors of secrets, but none of those stories said the guardians could still move. This one was not broken, not asleep. It was awake, and it was walking toward Jack. Jack raised his hand slowly, not sure if he should run or speak, but before he could decide, the guardian stopped. Its red eyes blinked once, then twice. A deep sound filled the room, not words, but a vibration that went through his bones. Then the wall behind the guardian lit up with symbols. The symbols moved across the wall like waves of light. Jack stared at them, trying to understand. One line stood out, a symbol that matched the one on the glowing cube he touched earlier. The guardian turned its head toward it, then back to Jack. It stepped aside, and the wall behind it opened slowly, revealing a small hovering drone. The drone floated toward Jack, lights blinking softly. It scanned his face, then let out a soft chime. Lyra stepped back, confused. "Why is it reacting? Only to you?" she asked. Jack didn't know the answer, but the drone hovered close to him like it belonged there. It made a soft hum and projected a beam of light that showed a map. The shape was the same as the pyramid, but far bigger below ground. The pyramid was just the top. Beneath it was an entire structure buried under the sand. Jack looked at Lyra, his voice shaky. "This isn't just a pyramid," he said. "It's a machine." Before they could speak more, the floor shifted again. Another door opened behind them, and cold wind blew in. It carried a sound with it, a whispering voice, calling Jack's name. He turned fast, heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" he asked. Lyra looked scared. "I didn't hear anything." Jack stepped into the new hallway, and the drone followed him. Lyra hesitated, but ran after him. The new passage was different, darker, older, and filled with strange carvings. The lights on the wall flickered weakly. At the end of the hallway was a room filled with floating stones. Each stone hovered in the air, spinning slowly and glowing with soft blue light. Jack reached toward one of the stones, and it moved to meet his hand. As soon as his fingers touched the stone glowed brighter and showed him another vision. He saw soldiers in silver armor running through the same hallways he was in now. Behind them, explosions, fire, and shadowy figures chasing them. One of the soldiers looked like Jack, or maybe someone related to him. The soldier was holding something, a sphere, glowing just like the cube from before. Then the vision ended, and the stone floated back into place. Jack took a deep breath, his voice quiet. "They were trying to hide something down here." Lyra nodded slowly, looking at the other floating stones. "Or protect it," she said, "from whatever was chasing them." Suddenly, a deep mechanical voice filled the chamber. It came from nowhere and everywhere. "Protocol awakened. Human signature detected. Command access pending." Jack and Lyra looked around, startled. The stones began to spin faster, and the light grew brighter. Then one of the walls slid open, and a staircase appeared. leading down into darkness. Jack looked at Lyra, his heart racing. "We've come this far," he said. She nodded, even though her hands trembled. They stepped onto the stairs, one slow step at a time. The deeper they went, the warmer it got, and the air smelled like old metal and fire. At the bottom, they found a small chamber with a strange platform in the center. Jack stepped onto it, and the drone hovered over his shoulder. The platform lit up beneath his feet. A ring of light rose up around him, scanning his body. Then came the sound again, soft whispers only he could hear. This time, they spoke in a language he didn't know, but somehow understood. "You carry the blood of the builders," the voice said. "The key is alive." Jack blinked in shock. Lyra stared at him, confused and afraid. "What is it saying?" she asked. Jack turned toward her. "It says I'm the key," he said. "And I just opened something big." Behind them, the platform rumbled, and a massive wall cracked open. Beyond it was darkness, and in that darkness, something moved, something old, huge, and watching. The light vanished in an instant. Darkness swallowed everything around Jack. He blinked, but nothing changed. There was no floor beneath him, no walls around him, no air. Yet he was not falling. And he was not floating. He was somewhere else. Somewhere not meant for humans. Then stars began to appear, one by one, not real stars, but memories of stars, glowing shapes that pulsed like heartbeats. A voice spoke again, not from outside, but from inside his mind. "You are inside the core memory," it said. "This is what was lost." Jack turned, even though his body didn't feel real. Suddenly he stood in space, above a massive planet. With rings made of fire, ships flew across the sky like flocks of birds. But they were not birds, they were weapons. Gigantic machines drifted in the blackness, waiting for orders, and high above them all, a station shaped like a pyramid floated. In silence, Jack's vision zoomed toward it. Fast like a dream, he moved through its walls like a ghost, watching people work. They looked human, just like him, but they wore armor covered in strange symbols. They spoke quickly, urgently, shouting commands as alarms flashed red. A shadow was coming, something big and wrong. One man stood at the center, tall and calm, holding a glowing orb in his hand, the same orb Jack had touched, the same face Jack saw in the mirror every morning. The vision shifted again, and the pyramid in space began to fall apart. Flames burst from its sides as escape pods launched into the void. That same man looked directly at Jack, as if through time itself. Then he spoke a single word. One Jack did not know, but his heart understood it. "Remember," Jack gasped as the vision vanished. He fell forward onto his knees, back inside the real pyramid. Lyra knelt beside him, shaking his shoulder. "Are you okay? Say something." Jack looked at her, sweat pouring down his face. "I saw them," he whispered. "I saw their last moments. And I saw me." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean you saw you?" "I think I'm connected to them," he said. "Not just by blood, but by purpose." Before Lyra could speak again, the drone beeped loudly. A red line appeared on its display, a signal moving fast toward their location. A loud mechanical roar echoed from deep inside the structure. It wasn't like the Guardian, it was heavier, angrier, alive in a way that metal should not be. The ground shook, and dust rained from the ceiling. Lights along the walls turned red, blinking in warning. A door behind them sealed shut with a hiss. The only way left was forward, into the unknown. Jack helped Lyra to her feet. "We need to move," he said. Lyra nodded, pulling her cloak tighter around her. They ran down a narrow hallway as the roaring sound grew louder. The pyramid felt like it was breathing now, alive and waking up from a deep, angry sleep. They entered a tall chamber filled with glass pillars. Inside the pillars were glowing shapes floating and shifting. One of the pillars cracked as they passed, and a light shot out toward Jack's chest. It didn't hurt, but it stopped him. Cold, the drone flew in front of him and absorbed the beam. Then it spoke, for the first time with a real voice. Core synchronization complete. Unlocking final layer. A large part of the floor sank away, forming a spiral staircase made of smooth light. It led downward into what looked like a starless pit. Lyra grabbed Jack's arm. "Don't go down there. Please," she whispered. Jack looked at her, then at the glowing stairs. "I have to," he said. "It's waiting for me." They stepped down, one level at a time. The deeper they went, the warmer it became, and then suddenly, the space opened into a huge underground dome. In the center stood a giant nettle tree, black and silver, with glowing lines running through its bark. The branches moved slowly, like they were alive. At the base of the tree was a glowing pool of liquid light. Jack stepped closer, and the liquid rippled without being touched. From its surface rose a figure, not solid, not liquid, just energy in the shape of a woman. Her voice echoed through the dome, soft and deep. "You are the final one," she said. The key that must choose. Jack didn't understand. But the orb in his hand pulsed with light. The pool of energy showed him two images, one of the world in peace, and one burning in war. "What am I choosing?" he asked. The energy figure replied, "To wake the Reaper, or to seal it forever." Behind him, the roaring sound returned louder than before. Something huge had broken free from the deeper levels. It was coming for them. Lyra grabbed his hand, fear all over her face. "Whatever you choose," she said. "Choose now." The ground didn't just shake, it roared. Dust flew into the air as walls cracked. Metal groaned like something ancient was waking up from a long, violent dream. Jack turned slowly toward the sound. He didn't want to see what was coming, but he had to. From the broken tunnel behind them, something crawled out. It was not a beast, not a machine, it was both. Its body was made of dark plates, sharp and full of fire. Its eyes were like burning stars, and they locked onto Jack the moment it rose. Lyra froze, her body stiff like stone. "That's not just a guardian," she whispered. "That's the Reaper." Jack didn't move, his fingers tightening around, the orb still glowing in his hand. The Reaper let out a strange cry, a sound full of fury and pain. It stepped forward, and the ground cracked beneath its feet. "Jack," Lyra said quickly, "you need to do something now." Jack looked at the glowing pool and the energy figure standing beside it. The tree behind her pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and steady. The figure raised one arm and spoke again. "You can command the system," she said. "You carry the link." Jack shook his head, unsure. "I don't know how," he said. "You already began," she replied. "The moment you touched the first door." The Reaper stepped again, and a beam of heat shot past Jack. The wall behind him exploded, spraying sparks and fire. Lyra pulled him aside just in time, her voice shaking. "You can't run from it," she said. "Use the orb before it's too late." Jack raised the orb high, and it responded, glowing brighter. Symbols appeared in the air around him, circling fast like a storm. The Reaper paused, as if it recognized something. Then it growled low and spoke in a broken voice. "Commander." "Confirmed." Jack blinked, shocked. The Reaper didn't attack, it knelt. The flames in its body dimmed, and its sharp limbs folded close. Lyra stared in disbelief. You tamed it?" she whispered. Jack didn't answer. His mind was spinning. The energy figure walked closer, her light flickering like candle fire. "You wear the mark," she said. "And now, the final protocol must begin." From the ceiling above, another platform lowered. It carried what looked like a chair, but it was made of light and metal. The orb in Jack's hand pulled toward it, like a magnet. "Sit," the figure said. "Your choice must be made." Jack looked at Lyra, who shook her head. "If you activate the system," she said, "you might wake everything they buried." "If I don't," Jack said softly, "we might not survive what's already awake." He stepped onto the platform and sat in the chair. The orb melted into the controls, and lines of light spread across the dome. Suddenly, Jack could see everything, not with his eyes, but with his mind. He saw the world outside, the sand blowing across the planet. He saw the other pyramids, buried deep and hidden from time. He saw machines sleeping under cities, and skies that once burned with war. Then came the voice again. Do you wish to restore the old empire, or seal its weapons forever? Jack didn't answer right away. He saw what power had done. He saw what peace could be. He saw Lyra standing there, trusting him even though her whole life warned her not to. The Reaper growled again, rising behind him. Command. Awaiting. Purpose. It said. Jack took a deep breath. I don't want war, he said. I want something better. The lights dimmed, and the machine understood. The control lines shifted from red to green. The Reaper stood still, then folded down into sleep. Its fire went out, and its body sank back into the earth. The dome lights calmed, and the chair lowered Jack gently to the floor. Lyra ran to him, pulling him close. It's over? She asked. Jack nodded slowly. For now, he said. But this place isn't just sleeping anymore. From the glowing pool, the energy figure began to fade. Before disappearing, she said one final thing. You chose life, human. Let it guide you. The tree pulsed one last time, and the room went quiet. Jack and Lyra stood in the silence, hearts still racing. But they both knew the world had changed, and something far greater had just begun. Asterisk for a moment. The entire world held its breath. Then the stars blinked. Not in the sky, but in the system buried deep below the pyramid. Hidden machines, silent for ages, turned their eyes back on, and every single one turned toward Jack. He didn't see them with his eyes. He saw them through the orb, still connected to his hand like a pulse. Across the deserts, under oceans, even in the floating ruins above the clouds, ancient technology stirred. Metal giants blinked awake. Satellites began to spin, and lights buried beneath cities flashed red. Jack dropped to one knee, his body weak from what he had just done. Lyra held onto him, but her eyes were looking far. Something else started, she said quietly. I can feel it. The tree at the center of the dome gave one final slow pulse. Then its lights faded, and cracks spread through its bark. It had served its purpose, and now it was dying. The ground beneath them rumbled again. But not in anger. It was a message, a signal sent deep into the planet. A command that reached farther than Jack could imagine. Suddenly, the drone at his side lit up again. Signal confirmed, it said. Final protocol engaged. Unlocking global archives. A map appeared in the air, floating before them. It showed the entire planet, but with strange markings, circles, lines, and glowing points marked ancient locations. Some were pyramids, others were deep inside mountains, or under oceans. Each one lit up in green, then in red, then disappeared. They're waking up, Jack whispered. All of them. Lyra pointed to a blinking red point in the far north. That one's already active, she said. And it's close to my people's capital. Before they could think, the platform beneath them began to rise. It carried them upward, through layers of stone and metal. They didn't speak, just listened to the soft hum of forgotten machines turning again. When they reached the top, the desert air hit their faces like a wave. It was still night, but the stars above were flickering. Not from clouds, but from something moving in orbit. Jack looked up and felt a chill. There's something up there, he said. Lyra nodded. A sky watcher, she whispered. My ancestors used to speak of it. The pyramid behind them began to close again, its black walls sealing tight as if nothing ever happened. But they both knew it wasn't asleep anymore. Jack checked the orb, now quiet in his hand. Its glow was soft, but steady. Can we stop what's coming? He asked. Lyra didn't answer right away. She looked at the horizon, where the sun had just begun to rise. Maybe, she said, but not alone. A loud sound echoed through the desert air. Far in the distance, a ship appeared, small and fast, kicking up sand as it approached. Lyra's eyes narrowed. That's not one of ours, she said. The ship landed hard, and a tall figure stepped out. It wore dark armor, old but strong. and its face was hidden behind a cracked mask. It walked straight toward Jack, ignoring Lyra completely. Then it stopped a few feet away and spoke. "You carry the command seal," it said. "Then you must follow me." Jack stood still, unsure. "Who are you?" he asked. The figure removed its mask, revealing an alien face, half machine, half flesh. "I was part of the last defense," he said, "before your kind vanished." Lyra stepped forward, blocking Jack. "He's not your weapon," she said, her voice sharp, but the figure didn't back away. "The machines won't stop," he said. Now that they've seen his signal, more lights appeared in the sky, moving fast. Getting closer, something was coming, and it wasn't friendly. Jack looked at Lyra, then at the armored stranger. "I didn't ask for this," he said. The stranger nodded. "None of us did," he replied. "But we either fight or we vanish again." The orb pulsed once more, and symbols appeared in the air, this time showing more than a planet. They showed stars, gates, paths to other worlds. "This wasn't just a weapon," Jack said. "It was a warning." The stranger turned, walking back toward his ship. "You have one day," he said. "Then they arrive." Jack looked at Lyra, the weight of the world settling on his shoulders. "Then we better be ready," he said, and behind them, the pyramid stood tall, its dark tip pointing at the sky, as if daring the stars to return. The sky was no longer quiet. It whispered, then rumbled, then screamed. Black streaks cut across the clouds like knives. One by one, ships began to break through the atmosphere. Not ships made by humans or Lyra's people. These were older, colder, full of silence and purpose. Jack stood on the edge of a cliff, looking out over the cracked desert. Below, the wind pushed sand across the sealed tip of the pyramid. The orb in his hand pulsed like a beating heart, faster than before. It wasn't afraid, but it was warning him. "They're here," he whispered. Lyra joined him, her long coat whipping behind her. She held a weapon in one hand, old and sharp, passed down through her people for generations. "They won't talk first," she said. "They'll scan, judge, and strike." Jack didn't move. He knew now this was never just about one pyramid. This world was just one part of a giant lock. And when he touched the first door, he turned the key. Behind them, the armored stranger waited by his ship. More survivors from the past had joined him, warriors, tech keepers, voices that hadn't spoken in 1,000 years. They didn't ask Jack what he would do. They simply waited because they saw what the machine saw. He wasn't just human anymore. He was the command signal, the spark that could light a system or shut it down forever. The first of the black ships hovered above the desert now. Its underbelly opened, and a dark machine descended 20 feet tall, arms like scythes. Its voice cracked the sky. "Reset failed. Threat detected. Terminate." "The seed." Jack stepped forward, the orb floating beside him now, glowing with a silver fire. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "I'm your answer." The machine hesitated. More ships appeared behind it, and the desert grew dark then. The orb spoke through Jack, its voice layered and deep. "Override initiated. Final human directive engaged." A light burst from the pyramid below, brighter than the sun. The black sand peeled back, revealing more towers long buried and now rising from the earth. One by one, they connected through the air, forming a barrier of energy around the planet. The machines in the sky paused, blinking, calculating. Then they began to fall one by one, shutting down midair and crashing into the sand. The Reaper rose again, awakened by Jack's command, but this time it didn't attack. It stood like a sentinel, facing the stars, guarding instead of hunting. Jack fell to his knees, the energy draining from him. The orb returned to his chest, fading back into stillness. He could barely hear Lyra's voice as she ran to him. "You did it," she whispered. "You stopped them." He looked up at her, tired but smiling. "No," he said, "we gave them a choice. And they chose not to fight." The sky cleared and the stars returned, one by one. The towers sank back into the earth, sealing themselves again. The desert was quiet once more, but it wasn't the same. Something had changed, not just in the world, but in its story. The survivors from the old war knelt before Jack, not in worship, but in understanding. He wasn't their ruler, he was their bridge. Lyra stood beside him, her hand in his. Her people would no longer fear the pyramid. The pyramid would become a place of truth, not silence. A place where history spoke and futures were shaped. Jack looked up at the stars one last time. Somewhere out there, other keys still waited. Other orbs, other pyramids, other worlds on the edge of choice. But this world was safe for now, and that was enough.